Sunday saw the Montreal Canadiens hold their last Group A, B, and C practice before the preseason begins on Monday night. What they did was they worked on special teams, both power play and penalty kill. It's pretty important, so let's talk some puck. Hey gang, Costa here from Puck Talk Montreal once again, and we're right around the corner. Tonight is the night where the Montreal Canadiens will start their preseason, but let's take a look at what happened yesterday at practice because it's pretty important as they started to work on power play and penalty kill, two of the most important parts of any hockey season. And the thing about Montreal is if those two units are firing on all cylinders, they're going to have more success than they do failure. The Canadiens last season hovering around the 20% mark when it came to the power play, which was a real plus considering where they were just a couple of seasons ago. And of course, the penalty kill was on and off, right? I would have liked to see them be a little bit more aggressive on the puck. And I think with some of the changes that they're talking about, they may very well get to that particular standpoint. But let's go back to a couple of days ago where Jaden Struble mentioned that he thought that the penalty kill would be his door to getting onto the Canadiens roster on a more permanent full-time basis. And that's great. But whether or not he's going to be able to do that is going to be contingent on his ability to play defensively. Now, there's a couple of things that work in his favor. Number one, he can move his feet. Number two, he can get physical when he needs to. And number three, he's also very agile, something that we talked about Arbor Jackeye needing. And then, of course, there's the fact that last season he was insulated playing with Lane Hudson, getting more offensive than defensive zone starts. So I still question whether or not he can do it. We're going to see, but there's no real proof in what he's done so far at the NHL level to say he did or he didn't, right? So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and see whether or not he can use that particular niche to get into the Canadiens roster full time. And then there's Alex Newhook, who right off the cuff, Marty St. Louis said he needed to talk to him because he was going to give him the role of being a penalty killer. And he wanted to see how acceptable that would be for Newhook. And Newhook took it in with open arms, very open to the idea of penalty killing because he's done it before in his career. And then he mentioned also that he thinks that perhaps the penalty kill would open up more offensive opportunities for him, given that his sole purpose wouldn't be to just score. And so he's very encouraging of the role, which is great. That's what you want to hear from your players. But then again, what's the player going to say otherwise when the coach says, I want you to kill penalties? The difference, though, being through what they did with Josh Anderson, there's a little bit of a precedent. So I think Newhook could see that Anderson's offensive numbers did come up to the year previous, and may very well look at it as a good thing for his career. So all in all, there's some great talk, right? And before we go any further, let's just take a look at the groups so that you have an idea, in case you didn't see them, of what and who was practicing together. Now you take a look at Group A, you've got Anderson, Beck, Belil, Kandara, Doc, Davidson, Demidov, Evans, Farrell, Gallagher, Kapanen, Laine, and Meshai. Those are your group of forwards. Then you have Klerman, Delgado, Dobson, Engstrom, Matheson, and Struble. Fowler and Montalban rounding out the goaltenders. And basically, in Group A, your power play unit, straight up, is Gallagher at the front of the net, along with Laine, Doc, and Demidov, with Noah Dobson at the point. No issue there, right? But if you go back to look at the group again, who are your penalty killers? Well, Anderson is one. Evans is the other. So there are your two. And then defensively, you take a look at it, more likely than not, in that practice, you had Matheson and Struble actually defending more often than not. Now, others could have gotten involved, but that would be my idea of what that unit of four would be on the penalty kill, right? Given what Struble said the other day. So there you have it. That would be Group A. Let's move on to Group B. And now with Group B, you've got Blair, Bolduc, Caufield, Newhook, Rohrer, Roy, Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Thorpe, Tuck, Veleno, and Florian Jackeye. On defense, Carrier, Gouli, Hudson, Paquette, Bisson, Reinbacher, and Arbor Jackeye. So in this particular case, I would say right away that your power play would be, of course, Caufield, Suzuki, Bolduc, Hudson, and Slavkovsky. There's your unit. Defensively, you've got Carrier and Jackeye, perhaps, looking at it from a defensive perspective. And then to kill penalties, who else do you have? You have Newhook, correct? And let me go back to the group for a second as I look at it. So you have Newhook. You could put in Roy. You can put in Blais. You can put in Veleno. You can put in Thorpe. So there were options there as well. So very interesting on how the team split up those two groups. And then group 3, well, these guys seem to be on the outside looking in when you take a look at the names, right? Dauphin, Denin, Dunlop, Estepa, Gurianov, Kidney, Mianskim, Simoneau, Louis-Jean, Martin, O'Rourke, Protz, Wiley, Jones, Goudreau, and Mandelis. And that comes to be expected because those guys, other than perhaps Owen Protz is going to go back to junior, all, they look like guys that are going to start off in the American Hockey League. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But they'll probably see a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 exhibition games just to get a little bit of play before they end up going to the AHL clubs. But at the end of the day, when you look at the specialty teams, the groups were well defined. And so what happened? Well, they went in there, and right away afterwards, when they came off the ice and Ivan Demidov began to talk, it sounded like he was a little disappointed. But I think instead of being disappointed, he wanted to see a little bit more from his guys in the sense of, building chemistry. Listen to what he had to say.
We have something that we can improve, so just keep it. I think we'll gotta be better next time. Yeah, I know, but still, we have something that we're gonna work on, so we'll see. I think might be on the right spot, on the hash, so it's kinda I have more option to the pass, to the to shoot back from there. Might be just more chemistry, because it was first time when we played, so we'll see how it's gonna be.
And that's just it, right? It's okay that he worked with Laine over the summer, so Laine and Demidov, working together, kind of built a little bit of chemistry. But when you stick Kirby Dach in there, they haven't played very often. They only practice a couple of times, so you can't expect the power play to have any type of chemistry, because one of the most important parts of a power play is the sense that you want to be able to figure out where your guys are going to be on the ice at all times to make it easier for you to make plays without necessarily needing to look and see where they are, right? There's certain expectations. That's the way he's learned to play. But Marty St. Louis runs a power play that depends more on a player's individual talent. And I think when he talks about chemistry, the chemistry that he wants is the ability to be able to read where his players are going to be and what they're going to do. It's easy to figure out where Laine is going to be. Doc, it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to explain a little bit later what I expect from the center position on the power play, the bumper and all that stuff. But, he seemed a little disappointed, but I wouldn't say it's their first session, right? So you can't expect too much. They've still got all 6 exhibition games and some practices in between to be able to work on the power play. So pump the brakes a little bit here. It was their first session. Get a feel for it. See, it gives the coaches a chance to see how the guys are practicing and what the idea is as far as getting the puck around the ice and passing it back and forth. You can form your power play after that. And then, of course, you get the idea of where your penalty kill is as far as how aggressive they are and so on and so forth. So it's a good first set. And then they came to Demidov and they asked him about if he had his own expectations. And I loved his answer.
No, I don't know. I just play well, help our team win. That's my expectation.
And that's great. Help my team win. That's my expectation. No talk about how many goals. No talk about how many points. Just win. And it's a great outlook to have, right? Because the kid is going into his first full season in the National Hockey League. He doesn't know what to expect. He's played 2 NHL games plus 5 playoff games. And in the playoff games, he did well, but still seemed a little bit overwhelmed at certain times. So there's an adaptation that needs to be had. Not that it's not going to happen. He's got the skill set. He's got the mentality. He's got everything. Okay? It's just going to take him a little bit of time, and I think he's going to be able to get that time during those exhibition games that he's going to take part in. And then we turn to Zach Bolduc, who, coming from St. Louis, also played a little bit on the power play, but at a different level. And he mentions in this clip that he started junior on the half wall, but then St. Louis put him in a different position.
J'ai joué beaucoup sur sur le half-wall, si je peux dire, junior, au niveau junior. Puis la saison passée, je me suis vraiment trouvé une niche un peu dans le bumper, là, dans le
C'était nouveau, finalement.
Ouais, c'était ma première fois, tu sais, mais je me sentais en fait, c'est la première fois que je jouais dans cette position-là, puis je me sentais à l'aise, puis que j'avais pas l'impression d'être pris à travers tout le monde, tu sais, fait que j'ai appris un peu à sentir où que l'adversaire est, puis je pense que c'est ça qui crée du succès. Puis j'ai joué avec des bons joueurs aussi, des gars comme Robert Thomas, puis Pavel Buchnevich, des gars qui sont des passeurs incroyables, donc il y a beaucoup de mérite qui revient à eux. On n'a pas eu vraiment de discussion à ce sujet-là encore, mais je vais être prêt à jouer, que ce soit bumper ou à force. Ça va être en moi d'être prêt d'être prêt à n'importe quelle situation.
So basically what Bolduc said is that he's played half wall and he's played in the bumper. And so in that sense, he's ready to do it all, right? Whether it's one or the other. And he mentions Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich, two excellent passers who will be able to feed him the puck so that he can get good scoring chances. And given the fact that Bolduc's got a really good shot, being in the bumper is going to be what you're going to want him to do. So now bear with me, guys, as I put this together really quickly for you guys. So here's a little chart on a whiteboard where you see the power play for the Montreal Canadiens. As you look at it on your screen, on the left, I've got Bolduc. In the middle, I've got Suzuki, Caufield on the right, Slavkovsky at the net front, and of course, Hudson at the point. And now here's the thing with Bolduc, right? If Bolduc moves in just a little bit, he gives himself the ability to be able to get the puck and shoot right on goal, right? For one-timers, whether they come from Hudson, whether they come from Suzuki, or whether they come from Caufield. But by the same token, if, as an example, Suzuki decides to do what he normally does and go out towards the blue line and sweep in on the right, Bolduc can move in. And now if Suzuki has that puck, he can take that puck and he can move it over to Caufield, to the bumper to Bolduc for a one-time run goal with Slavkovsky in the front. Now, you're going to say Bolduc's not always going to be in the bumper. That's absolutely true. Also, if you see Suzuki come down to the goal line, right, which we see often as the puck is passed back and forth at the point, Caufield will put it down low to Suzuki. And as that puck is on the move, Slavkovsky can back off to the bumper, get a pass and shoot, with Bolduc going to the front of the net. Or you can still have Slavkovsky in front, but as that pass comes from Caufield to Suzuki, Bolduc can come into the bumper and just offset himself to be able to get a one-time shot on goal. So those are the options that you see on the power play, right? And given the fact that the Canadiens have so many different looks, whether it's with one unit or the other, it bodes really well. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more of that whiteboard work as the season progresses. But overall, I mean, I trust in what Marty St. Louis has been able to do with the power play. Since he's taken over and Alex Burrows has turned his focus more on development at the AHL level, I've seen the power play progress and become steadily better and better and better. That's what Marty St. Louis was hired to do in Columbus. That's what he's doing in Montreal, above and beyond his all-encompassing job of being the head coach of the Canadiens. So there's no real reason to doubt that these power play units are going to be bad. And listening to what Demidov said, right, where he was a little disappointed in the practice, it could very well be that the practice was a little too short. It's a little unclear. There's a little bit lost in translation, right? I'm sure that somebody at the Canadiens is going to say, dude, you can't say that publicly and say that you were disappointed with practice. That's not right, because then it's like you're putting something on the coaches when I don't think he was. I just think he thought it was a little bit too rudimentary practice instead of being something that was a little bit more difficult. But again, it's the preseason, and he's got to get used to that routine. So it could very well be just a rookie not used to it, because in Russia, it's always go, go, go when you're practicing, right? They skate you into the ground. They push you. This is a little different. You've got more time. You don't have to rush things, right? You've got a full 2-3 weeks to get your team completely ready before October 8th. So before we start talking about how disappointed we are with the power play, let's first see it in the preseason and how it works. And then we could kind of build a little bit of dependency on it, right? And we can put our own expectations on what we think the power play is going to be able to do. So tonight's the night. The Canadiens, they're going to be on the ice. And we're going to be here after the game is over. And into tomorrow morning, of course. You're going to be able to watch the post-game show. Going to try to format it in a way that works, right? But it should be all kinds of fun. So don't forget, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course, as with anything else, make sure you like the videos so that this way the algorithm picks them up and sends them your way when needed. Bye for now. We'll see you later tonight, just after the game is over.